Hey guys, David here in my home studio, and today I'm going to be doing a little rebuild of my home studio. Over the last year, I've pretty much been working with the same gear for about the last 12 months or so, but as I've been doing more and more custom sampled patches and sound libraries, I wanted to optimize my workflow and improve the sound quality that I was able to get so I could do some really cool new things with sampling. So today we're going to take everything in my studio apart, talk about some new gear that I picked up, and then we're going to put it all back together, and I'll walk you through the workflow that I'm hoping to work with over 2021. So consider this the 2021 Sunday Sounds Studio Tour. So we've got some new gear here that's come in the mail. I'm going to unbox everything, open everything up, get it all out of the packaging, and then we'll talk through the hardware that I've got and how I'm planning to integrate it into my sampling rig, into my home studio rig. So let's open up these boxes. So to start off with, I'm really excited about this. This is the Warm Audio 273 EQ. Warm Audio is the company, and the model is the WA273 EQ. So this is 273 style classic British preamp builds with the EQ circuit that has that really cool harmonic distortion that you can crank out of it. The reason I picked this up is because I wanted to be able to add extra warmth or even some grit to synthesizers and instruments as I was sampling them. And I wanted to be able to do that in real time with no latency in an analog fashion. And Warm Audio is an awesome company. Gotten to hear some of their stuff in action at NAMM over the last couple of years. They have a great reputation, and the 73 style preamp is just a classic preamp that sounds great on synths, on vocals, on guitars, on any microphone really. It adds some really cool character. In the past, I've always just pulled a synthesizer over to my desk, plugged it in, connected it to my DAW, and recorded or sampled it in the moment. But I really wanted to be able to dynamically mix different synthesizers together while still having, at the end of the line, a single stereo signal that I could run through something like the Warm Audio preamp. So I picked up this Ashley LX308B, which is a stereo line mixer, and it has 8 stereo pairs, so 8 stereo channels that you can mix through this thing, and it's rack mountable. So I'm going to be able to run all of my analog synthesizers, everything I want to sample, through the line mixer here, and then run a single stereo line out of this into the Warm Audio preamp, and then from there into the digital world, into my DAW, into Logic or MainStage or whatever I'm using for sampling, Sample Robot, something like that. So I'm able to do that, all that audio from the synthesizers. I wanted to be able to do that with MIDI as well. So that led me to the Mio XL from iConnectivity. This is a MIDI interface. It's basically doing the same thing that the audio mixer is doing, but from a MIDI perspective. So here on the back, you have 6 different MIDI in and out, and then you have another 6 MIDI in and out on the front, a ton of USB MIDI ins as well. So it really can unify everything, and then you can send or receive MIDI pretty much wherever you want. So the game plan, I think what I'm going to attempt to do is get everything set up so that my main workstation keyboard at my desk can automatically just send MIDI to all of the keyboards, and then I'm also able to play all of the keyboards from any other keyboard. So if I get up and I want to tweak a setting on my DX7 or something like that, but I'm also hearing audio from my Prophet, I want to be able to hear both of those and play them on either keyboard interchangeably. Okay, next I have just a pretty standard Furman power conditioner. Gives me several clean and filtered, separated out power poles on the back. So you've got 2 different banks, 1 3 higher current, and then over here you've got 5 lower current. Wanted to be able to make sure as I'm grabbing samples that I don't need to remove a bunch of electronic noise from the samples themselves because of poor power. And then just happened that these Furman power strips were thrown in with the rack. This guy, this is a new Apple Silicon Mac Mini. Gonna do a separate video on this guy specifically, so I'm gonna leave it in box for now, but I'm really excited to check out this new Apple Silicon based Mac computer. It seems like it's gonna be really killer. Okay, so it's already a mess in here, and I haven't even started taking my old rig apart. I use the Output platform desk, which I really love because it has great built-in cable management. The problem is that lets you get away with things looking pretty messy behind the scenes. And as I've added to this rig sort of modularly over the last couple of years, I haven't always taken things apart and rewired everything. I've just sort of added things in. So I'm going to take the opportunity today to take it all apart and sort of start fresh. So I'm going to set the camera down. We're going to pull all the synths out from the wall. I'm going to disconnect all of the audio gear. We're going to put it all back together, work in these new rack-mounted items, and then at the end of the video, I'll let you hear how it ended up sounding. Okay, well, it's been really productive so far. I spent the last 25 minutes doing battle with this little rack screw. And so far here, then, I have just gotten the line mixer in place, and I wanted to start with that. So I've got everything lined up here and nicely labeled, and I'm hopeful that this will save me a bunch of time later. It is a rat's nest down here, but I'm gonna just run each cable out one at a time directly to the synth that it is going to be plugged into. So next, I'm gonna get the warm audio EQ in place. The output of this guy right there is just gonna go right into the warm audio. Okay, so it's getting late. It's about 10 o'clock, almost 10 here tonight. So I'm gonna call it a night, but I did get a lot done. I'll come back at tomorrow. So I finished up all of the power over here, or all of the audio over here, and then we've got power here for everything on the desk. But I'm gonna get the desk, I wanna get the desk put back together, and then I'll come over here to the synth side of things and start working on the MIDI stuff. So that's all gonna go in that rack down there. So that's where the Mio XL is gonna go, and the other Furman power conditioner. So all of the synths are going to be getting nice clean power from there. All of the MIDI is going to be interfaced through the Mio XL, and then all the audio is going to go to the desk. So I'm going to come back at it tomorrow with fresh legs and keep chipping away. All right, folks, it's another day, and I finished up wiring up the MIDI side of things and got all of the audio from each of the individual synths connected. All the MIDI is wired into this rack right here on the ground, which is just right next to my desk. So let me go ahead and flip the camera around and walk you through how this part of the rig is set up. All right, so this rack here is pretty straightforward. Furman power rack at the top powers everything in the rack. The Mio XL right here is doing all of the MIDI routing for the whole rig. So every keyboard that's connected to my desk comes through the Mio XL first, both MIDI in and MIDI out into the Mio XL. So preset management's really simple because I can control it right here from this knob, which I'll often do, or I can use iConnectivity's software to do that as well. But I can make changes in the software and then save them to the unit, and I don't have to have the computer nearby or even turned on in order to be able to run through these presets, which is really great. So this one right here, key 88 to all, actually turns the key station 88 here under my desk and sends MIDI to every synth in the line. And then I'm also able to independently play all of the key beds on those keyboards if I want to hear just one sound at a time. Below that, I've got a Behringer Euphoria interface and then a little headphone mixer. I don't use either of these very often, but I went ahead and racked them up. All right, now let's talk synths. Here we have the Prophet Rev 2. This is a brand new synth to me that I picked up, made by Sequential Circuits and Dave Smith. This is the 16 voice version, and this is a really amazing analog synthesizer that just sounds incredible. Super iconic sound. Absolutely love it. And at the back, everything that is stereo is running stereo out, and then MIDI in and MIDI out as well. Below that, I have my vintage Yamaha DX7, which is an awesome FM synthesizer that's super fun to work with, super odd to program, kind of an outdated interface, but really cool sounds if you're willing to dig in there. The DX7 is mono, so there's mono audio out and then MIDI in and out as well. And the DX7 actually has a really great key bed as well. Up here we have the Behringer DeepMind 12. This is a really cool little analog polysynth with some really great TC Electronic effects included, some digital effects that are really cool. This synth doesn't sound as lush or as big as the Rev 2 from Sequential, but it has its own sort of thing, and it's really cool to be able to add some girth to sounds. And there's some great sounds that you can get out of this synth alone as well. It's also a very different interface than the Rev 2, so that makes for a different experience. Sometimes that brings up different ideas. Below this, I have my Rhodes Mark IV. This is just an amazing electric piano. I have it here because I love to just turn it on and play it. I don't really do a lot of sampling from here. Obviously, there's no MIDI, but it does make pretty much the most attractive synth stand in the history of the world for the DeepMind 12. And then lastly, over here right now, I have the Behringer Odyssey, which is a monophonic, well, paraphonic sort of analog synthesizer that's really quirky, really weird, super fun to program. You can get some really strange, glitchy tones out of it. And then right above that, with the Behringer Model D, which is a great Moog style monosynth, really great bass sounds out of here. So that's the synth rig that I have right now. I do have a Korg Op6 on the way, which is Korg's brand new FM synth that I'm really, really excited about. It's probably going to go here somewhere. All right, let's turn over to the desk. All right, so I've got MainStage open now because I want to show you how this actually works in a real world context. So I've got an external instrument set up here, and this instrument is just sending MIDI out to the Mio XL. The Mio is receiving all of the input, passing the MIDI through to all of the synths. All of the synths are run in stereo if possible, mono if not, into this guy right here, into the Ashley stereo mixer. So each of these knobs gives me volume control and pan control over each individual synth. So right here on channel 1, I have the Prophet Rev 2. So from there, I'm able to pull up just that one synth if I would like. And then next door to that, I have the DeepMind 12. So here's just the DeepMind. And then I can blend these two together if I like. And there's two functions here. The outer ring is pan and the smaller ring is volume. So from here I'm able to adjust where these things sit in the stereo field as well. We've got a couple gaps here, one where I'll be adding in the Op6, and then channel 4 for a future synth as well, an extra space. 5, 6, and 7 right now are all for synths that are mono. So channel 5 is the DX7. Channel 6 is the Model D. Pretty basic little synth there, but I like combining that with the Rev 2. And then here in 7, I have this really cool little noisy thing dialed in on the Odyssey, with a cool reverb tail on it as well. So I've got all these things sort of dialed in roughly. I'll bring them all together now, and we'll see how this sounds. So I can dial in the mix from here however I like, which is cool. Then from the Ashley mixer, it feeds up to the 273 EQ. So there's 2 ins there, and they're not in stereo, it's just 2 true inputs each. So I'm running the left into input 1 and the right into input 2. I can add gain, which gives it more oomph, a little bit more warmth, and then I can taper that back down with the output knob if I need to. So I can push the signal really hard if I'd like to warm something up. So the Ashley mixer gets mixed down to a stereo signal by the 273 EQ, processed through that, and then sent into the Apollo right here. Okay, so once a sound or combination of sounds is dialed in, at least sounds pretty dialed in, then I can go inside of MainStage if I want to use Auto Sampler, or Logic Pro has Auto Sampler as well. I can grab samples from this combination of sounds, and then there's more work to be done inside of EXS24, inside of Sampler, to dial that instrument in further. But the really great thing about having all of these tools available to sort of pull from in the moment is that sometimes there's a lot of exploration involved with sound design, and having to unplug things and plug other things in and work with samples and mix them after the fact really just does slow the process down. And I really wanted to be able to just grab an idea from one synth, see how it played with a sound from another instrument, to be able to do this kind of sound design work. So this is something that I've actually been working on, that I just demonstrated in the video here. And I've done a rough sampling pass here, sort of a first draft of this instrument. I've messed with it a bunch inside of the sampler after the fact and added some, well, done some subtractive EQ to kind of dial the instrument in. I've added some stereo delay and some reverb to spatialize things and spread things out. And this is what this patch is sounding like right now. Sampled from the instruments using this rig. This is the very first patch I've ever made with this new rig. Sounds like this. Okay, so, not a bad first patch. I'm really happy with how everything has come together. It all sounds super clean, and it's all really fast to be able to just chase an idea. We get questions all the time about the gear that we're using to create the sounds that we release at Sunday Sounds. We get questions about studio setup, about how we shoot our videos, what cameras, what lighting gear we use. Not enough time to go over all of that in this video. But we're going to include links in the description of the video to all the gear that we use, all of the audio equipment, all of the synthesizers that I use in my studio, all of the video cameras and lighting gear and tripods and all of that stuff that we use to produce our video content. All that's going to be linked in the description. If you happen to purchase a piece of gear through one of those links, it may be an affiliate link, which gives us a small kickback at no extra cost to you and is a great way to support the channel. So thanks if you choose to do that. If you have questions or comments about home studios, questions about my gear, how this is all set up, leave a comment and let us know. We'd be happy to talk with you further about this studio, about how I've got things set up in the comments. I'll be checking into those comments personally myself and answering the questions that you guys come up with. If you have something else you'd like to see me go a little bit deeper into in a future video, leave a comment and let me know that as well, because I'd be happy to do more tutorial content on this sampling rig, on how I approach sound design when it comes to analog synths and bringing those into the digital world. Thanks for supporting us at Sunday Sounds and for checking out this video. Have a great day.